breaking news out of nowhere. We were kind of on high alert because then I got told, there's a very high chance this is going down.
This is where we crack open a stack of sources, articles, research, data, everything we've got, and really pull out the essential knowledge you need to be informed.
Yep, that's the goal.
And today, we're plunging into one of the biggest, maybe the biggest, and most unexpected baseball stories of the year so far.
That Rafael Devers trade. Just wow.
Exactly. Rafael Devers going from the Boston Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants. Mid-season.
Yeah.
So our mission, using all the reports and data we've gathered, is to cut through the noise, understand the real forces at play here, and figure out what this seismic shift means for everyone involved.
And there are definitely some surprising facts and different perspectives in these sources, things you don't get just from the headlines.
For sure. Let's start with the timing, because that felt really sudden.
It really did.
Yeah.
The sources we have, they all underscore that element of shock. Especially when it happened.
Absolutely. This wasn't your typical deadline move, right? This was different. Okay, so let's unpack when this actually went down.
Right. So the reports highlight it was mid-June 2025, specifically Sunday, June 15th.
Mid-June.
Yeah, it felt sudden, impactful. Almost more like an NBA kind of trade in its suddenness.
That's a good comparison. And the context around it is fascinating, too. It happened right after a Red Sox game, didn't it?
It did. Boston had actually just finished sweeping the Yankees, a 3-game sweep.
Wow, okay.
Won that last game 2-0, extended their win streak to 5 games. Jose Bello pitched really well, 7 innings, 8 strikeouts.
So things were actually looking up for them at that moment.
Seemed that way. And Rafael Devers, he was right in the middle of it. Hit a home run in that final game.
No kidding?
Yeah, 5th inning, off Max Fried. And one source actually pointed out, specifically noted, that this homer was his last hit as a member of the Red Sox.
Wow. That's pretty dramatic. His last swing for the team is a go-ahead homer against Fried in a Yankees game they win.
Yeah. Adds a whole layer to it, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so let's get right into the nuts and bolts. The deal itself, who exactly went where.
Okay, so the core of it. San Francisco Giants acquire designated hitter Rafael Devers. That's the headline.
Right, the star piece.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And going back to the Boston Red Sox is a package of 4 players. You've got left-handed pitcher Kyle Harrison,
okay,
right-handed pitcher Jordan Hicks, outfielder James Tibbs III, and a minor league righty, Jose Bello.
4 players back.
4 players. And a really critical detail that all the sources emphasize. The Giants took on the entirety of Devers' massive contract. Yep. No salary retained by Boston.
Okay, that is huge, taking on the whole contract. Let's start with the Giants side then. What was their thinking? Why make such a huge splash?
Well, the sources consistently frame this as the Giants finally landing that star player they've been after for a while now.
Right. They'd missed on some big names.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Names like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Carlos Correa.
Yeah.
They pursued them in previous off seasons, didn't land them.
So this was filling that need.
Yeah. And the reports also characterize this as Buster Posey's first really major move as an executive, kind of signaling, they're ready to take big swings.
Makes sense. And what was the reaction like inside the Giants clubhouse? The sources mentioned that.
They do. Willie Adams apparently called it a big acquisition, said the team, quote, needed a bat like him.
Okay.
And Logan Webb reportedly called Devers a stud, a guy you just plug in every single day. Webb said he was ecstatic.
High praise from key teammates.
Definitely. And it makes sense when you look at Devers' numbers leading up to the trade. I mean, the guy was raking.
What were the stats looking like?
As of June 15th, the sources have him hitting .272, but with a .401 on base and .504 slugging. That's a .905 OPS.
Wow. .401 on base is elite.
Totally.
Yeah.
15 homers, 58 RBI. He was actually second in the AL in RBIs at the time and led the league in walks with 56.
Leading the league in walks, that points to discipline too.
It does. And one source highlighted his OPS plus ply, which adjusts for league and park factors. It was 149.
So 49% better than league average.
Yeah, a career high for him at that point, according to that source. Just elite offensive production.
Okay, so they're getting this huge bat, but what about where he plays? That's been a whole storyline with Devers, hasn't it?
It has. And the reports indicate he'd mostly been Boston's DH in 2025.
Right.
Now, for the Giants, the situation's a little fluid. Matt Chapman, their third baseman, he's currently on the IL with a hand sprain.
Okay, so there's an opening there, temporarily at least.
Temporarily, yeah. And Dominic Smith and Wilmer Flores. They've been handling first base and DH, and the sources note they've actually been playing pretty well.
So it's not like there's a gaping hole there either once Chapman's back. How do the Giants see him fitting in then?
Well, the initial thought, based on what we're reading, is he might see some time at third base right away because Chapman's out.
Makes sense.
But after that, whether he settles into DH, maybe plays some first base, that decision seems like it'll be made once he actually gets there and they figure things out.
Did the Giants address the reports about him maybe not wanting to move positions?
Yeah, interestingly, one report mentioned Buster Posey, specifically talking about that. He apparently said Boston's baseball ops chief called those media reports unfortunate.
Trying to downplay it.
Seems like it. Posey added that the Giants got reports Devers is a great teammate, loves to play, wants to win. Sort of implying they expect him to be flexible and put the team first.
Okay, so they're banking on that team first attitude. But still, taking on that contract for a player who might end up mostly at DH or first base, that feels like a big risk, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The sources definitely acknowledge the risk. It's a massive financial commitment.
How much is left on it again?
Roughly $270 million remaining, running through the 2033 season. One source even calculated the net present value, like the current worth of all those future payments, at around $230 million.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
It is, for a player who, might be defensively limited as he gets into his 30s. And another specific concern raised in one source was his contact rate.
Oh, yeah. What about it?
It had been noticeably declining, over 71% in 22 and 23, then dropped to like 69% in 24, and down to 67% in 25 when the trade happened.
That's definitely something to watch over a long contract.
For sure. So weighing the elite bat against the contract risk and the defensive profile, one source gave the Giants a B grade for the move.
EB. Okay, now let's flip the script. Let's look at Boston's side. Why trade your star hitter who's producing like crazy, especially after you just gave him that huge extension? The sources suggest there was, some drama involved.
Yeah, that's where it gets complicated. One source straight up states that Devers made a trade request back in the spring.
Okay, that's big, a trade request.
Yeah, and this was happening against the backdrop of what the reports call internal positional drama.
Right. Tell us about that drama. What was going on?
So the context really starts back in February 2025 when the Red Sox signed Alex Bregman.
Okay, another big name.
Right. And the clear plan was for Bregman to play third base, which of course was Devers' longtime spot.
Uh-oh. How did Devers take that?
Well, sources reported he initially didn't want to move off third, but eventually he kind of relented and agreed to be the primary DH.
Okay, so issue resolved.
Not quite, because then their first baseman, Tristan Casas, suffered a season-ending injury.
Ouch. Bad luck.
Yeah, and according to reports, Devers was asked to help fill in at first base, and he refused.
Refused to play first.
That's what the sources indicate.
Okay.
One called that decision a little unreasonable, given the team's sudden need.
It sounds like a messy situation with maybe blame on both sides. What do the sources say about that?
They definitely offer different perspectives. One viewpoint laid out argues that, look, Red Sox management kind of created this mess. They made the own goal, as the source put it, by signing Bregman without fully resolving the Devers situation first.
Okay, so management error number one.
Right. But that same source also pointed out that Devers digging in his heels about playing first after Casas got hurt, well, that was problematic too. It's a team sport, after all.
So a situation that just kind of spiraled.
Exactly. It feels like a classic organizational breakdown playing out in public. And maybe that's partly why one source gave the Red Sox only a C grade for this trade.
A C. So despite trading away a performing star, what were the upsides for Boston, according to these reports? Why pull the trigger?
Well, the most immediate thing is just escaping that drama. Getting past the positional awkwardness and whatever team chemistry issues it caused.
Clearing the air, basically.
Yeah, but maybe even bigger is the financial aspect. They freed up a ton of salary space.
How much are we talking?
Around $14 million just for the rest of 2025, and then over $27 million annually every year after that through 2033. That's massive financial flexibility.
And they didn't have to pay any of it down in the trade.
Nope. And the reports mentioned that sources with other teams were actually surprised Boston got talent back without retaining salary. That highlights how big a win the financial relief was for them.
But then there's the other side of that coin, the optics, as one source called it, trading another star.
Right. That's the big one. You trade Moogie Betts a few years ago. Now you trade Rafael Devers, another beloved homegrown star hitter you just extended. It sends a message.
Not necessarily a great one if you're a fan, or maybe even a young player in their system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some reports definitely raise concerns about what signal this sends to guys like Roman Anthony or Marcelo Mayer. Like, will the team commit long-term to keeping its stars? It definitely echoes beyond just this season's roster.
Okay, let's dig into that return package Boston got. You mentioned 4 players, a mix of guys.
Yeah, 4 players. Let's start with the pitchers. They got Tyrell Harrison. He's a lefty, 23 years old, was a really highly rated prospect.
Harrison, okay. What's his profile?
Well, one really interesting thing the sources point out is his delivery. He throws mid-90s, but from a super low release point, like under 5 feet off the ground.
Whoa, what does that do?
It apparently creates this natural rising effect on his fastball that's really tough for hitters to pick up. Kind of like a Joe Ryan, maybe?
Okay, I can picture that. Deceptive.
Yeah. And he's got an above-average breaking ball, too. He's already pitched quite a bit in the majors, 39 appearances, 35 starts, has a career 4.48 ERA, decent strikeout-to-walk ratio, around 2.9.
So he's got big league experience. Where's he headed now?
Immediate assignment is AAA Worcester. He's from California. And actually, get this, he was scheduled to start for the Giants the very day he got traded.
Wow, that's awkward.
Yeah. Logan Webb called him a friend and mentor, said he thinks Harrison's going to be a star. So, high hopes there.
Okay, so potential frontline starter type. Who else on the pitching side?
They also got Jordan Hicks, right-hander, 28 years old. He's actually on the injured list right now, right toe inflammation, been out since early June.
Hicks. He throws gas, right?
Historically, yeah. Though the sources note the Giants tried him as a starter this year, 2025. Didn't go great. ERA over 6 in that role.
Oh.
Yeah, so they'd moved him back to the bullpen recently. His stuff is more sinkers and sweepers now, more east-west movement. Oh. And here's an interesting financial wrinkle. By getting Hicks from the Giants, the Red Sox actually save about $32 million on his remaining contract compared to what San Francisco owed him.
Wait, so they shed Devers' huge salary and they save money on one of the guys they got back?
Basically, yeah. It's a bit complex, but that's the bottom line on the Hicks part of the deal financially.
Okay, interesting. What about the position players in the return?
They got outfielder James Tibbs III. He's 22. He was the Giants' first-round pick just last year, 2024, number 13 overall.
First rounder. Okay.
Yeah, and one source highlighted he was the highest draft pick out of Florida State since. Buster Posey.
That's some good company. How's he doing in the minors?
He's in high A right now, batting .245, but with a really good .377 on base percentage and showing some pop, .480 slugging, 12 home runs.
Good OBP, power potential. What's the projection?
Sources project him as an above-average hitter, good plate approach, expected maybe in the big leagues around 2026.
So a key piece for the future, potentially. And there was one more guy.
One more. A younger pitcher? Jose Bello. Right-hander, only 20 years old, signed internationally from the Dominican Republic.
Bello. Any relation to Brian?
Doesn't seem like it. Sources don't mention a connection. He's pitched only in complex leagues so far.
Okay, very raw then.
Very raw, but the numbers are eye-popping there. 2.000 ERA and a ridiculous 9.33 strikeout-to-walk ratio. Shows great control and swing and miss stuff at that level.
Impressive KBB rate. Is he ranked highly as a prospect?
Not currently. Baseball America didn't have him in their latest Giants top 30. But the reports do mention he has a quality slider. So more of a lottery ticket, but with some upside.
Okay, so a mix of near-ready talent, future potential, and some financial maneuvering in that return for Boston. Before we wrap up, let's just take a beat and reflect on Devers' time in Boston. The sources paint quite a picture. He was a huge figure there for years.
Oh, absolutely. A cornerstone. Signed at 16 back in 2013. Big international bonus, $1.5 million. Always seen as a top prospect.
And he came up young, right?
Yeah, debuted in 2017 at just 20. And immediately started making history. Youngest Red Sox player to hit a homer since Canigliaro back in '65. Youngest Red Sox ever to homer in the playoffs.
Wow.
Youngest player in all of MLB history to hit an inside-the-park homer in the postseason.
That's a wild stat. And didn't he hit that insane homer off Chapman?
Yeah, that was 2017 too, off a 102.8 mile per hour fastball from Aroldis Chapman. Still the fastest pitch hit for a home run since they started tracking that stuff in 2008. Just incredible bat speed.
And he was a huge part of that 2018 World Series team.
Absolutely critical. Hit that massive go-ahead 3-run bomb off Verlander in the ALCS to basically punch their ticket to the World Series. Then had the go-ahead RBI late in Game 4 of the World Series itself. Clutch moments.
Just really racked up the hardware, too.
For sure. 3-time All-Star, 21, 22, and 24 just before the trade. Won the Silver Slugger at third base twice. 21 and 23.
What were his career numbers looking like when he left Boston?
Entering the trade, he was hitting .279 lifetime, over 1,100 hits, 215 homers, almost 700 RBIs, and .859 OPS overall. The sources just kept saying it. The bat's so special.
Yeah, the bat was never the question. He even led the league in doubles and total bases one year.
Yep, 2019. Just a hitting machine.
Yeah, there was always the defense, right?
Yeah.
The sources mention that consistently, too.
They do. They don't gloss over it, acknowledge the challenges at third base, led AL third baseman in errors multiple times between 2017 and 2024, had the lowest fielding percentage among active third basemen with like 500 games played. It was just part of the package.
Anything interesting personally from the sources?
Yeah, born in the Dominican Republic. Nickname is Carita Babyface, apparently, because he smiled a lot as a kid. His cousin, Jose Devers, also plays in the majors. And he started a charity back home focused on education and baseball. Seems like a good guy off the field.
Good context. And just to hammer home the financial part one last time, the contract the Giants took on fully is that 10-year, $313.5 million extension he signed in January 23. Runs through 2033. About $270 million left.
Right. And that includes those deferred payments too. $7.5 million deferred each year, paid out 10 years later between 2034 and 2043.
So a massive, complex financial commitment moved from Boston to San Francisco.
Exactly. It just highlights that this trade wasn't simply about swapping players. It was a fundamental financial and strategic realignment for both teams, driven by really different pressures, both internal and external.
Okay, so we've unpacked the sudden timing, the players changing uniforms, the Giants' clear need for a star versus the Red Sox navigating positional messes and massive salary, and just the complicated dynamics behind it all.
Yeah, a lot to digest.
Yeah.
And the full impact, especially with the prospects Boston got and how Devers performs over that whole contract. We won't know that for years.
Absolutely. Many chapters still to be written on this one.
For sure.
So here's where it gets really interesting, and maybe something for you to think about as you process all this information from the sources we've discussed. You've got Devers' incredible offense, almost generational hitting talent.
Yep.
Then you have the documented defensive issues, the very public drama about where he'd play in Boston, and now this massive, decade-long financial commitment the Giants just made.
All those pieces together.
Right. So looking at all of that, the elite production, the defensive questions, the clubhouse dynamics, the sheer dollars involved, what does this whole saga, this Devers trade, really tell us about how MLB teams today are trying to balance those things? How are they weighing pure offensive output against defensive versatility, team chemistry, and these enormous long-term contracts in the constant chase for wins?